As we continue in the study of spiritual gifts given on Pentecost, part 19 of 24, what does the Bible say about the gift of tongues? As we have already discussed in several segments, the gifts of the Spirit can be categorized into three categories: the gift of comprehension, the gifts of doing, and the gifts of speech, which includes prophecy, a subject already discussed. However, the most divisive doctrine and scriptural repertoire seem to be from the gift of tongues. Since it is a gift of the Spirit, let's cover all of the aspects of it over this and the next few segments, so that we may know the scriptural truth regardless of our position or acceptance or endorsement. We need to understand God's attitude about this gift, since neither your opinion nor mine make any difference. It is only God's opinion that counts, and His opinion is clearly stated in the testimony through His Word. Keep in mind the Spirit's warning through Paul's pen that we do not forbid speaking in other languages. What has been said in 1 Corinthians 13:1 in terms of the gifts of tongues can be said of any other gift as well. If it is exercised without love, it may well be just an annoying gong or a clanging cymbal. Chapter 14 of this same book clarifies this statement beginning in verse 1. Pursue love and desire spiritual gifts, and above all that you may prophesy. For the person who speaks in another language is not speaking to men, but to God, since no one understands him. However, he speaks mysteries in the Spirit, but the person who prophesies speaks to people for edification, encouragement, and consolation. The person who speaks in another language builds himself up, but he who prophesies builds up the church. I wish that all of you spoke in other languages, but even more that you prophesy. The person who prophesies is greater than the person who speaks in languages, unless he interprets, so that the church may be built up. Here is the truth of the matter. When a spiritual gift is exercised primarily for the personal benefit of the one to whom it is gifted at its lowest state, it may be an ego trip which would be blasphemous, although not the one that cannot be repented of. And as we have all observed, the normal result of self-adulation does not bode well for the usurper. The love of God in the hearts of His servant should manifest itself to the benefit of others, and often cost the one who exhibits God's love a personal sacrifice of time, money, or effort. Some denominations teach that speaking in an unknown language is the first evidence of the infilling of the Holy Spirit, while others will say that they believe in the gift of tongues. But please take your tongue to a church that practices this manifestation. There are others who teach that the gift of tongues was limited only to the early church, and that time has come to an end. So let's dig in and see what the scriptures really have to say. There are two basically named forms of this gift that are regularly employed, either in Christian gatherings or in private prayer. The first is a gift of human language, where one speaks in an unlearned language to someone of that native tongue. This is defined by the Greek word glossolalia. Glossa is by implication, a language, specifically one not naturally acquired. And the second one named is the mysterious angelic language. Jesus said in Mark 16:17, "And these signs will accompany those who believe. In my name they will drive out demons, and they will speak in new languages." That's glossa. Acts 2:1-8 addresses the birthday of the church on earth. When the day of Pentecost had arrived, they were all together in one place. Suddenly, a sound like that of violent rushing wind came from heaven, and it filled the whole house where they were staying. And the tongues, like flames of fire, were divided, appeared to them, and rested on each one of them. Then they were all filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in different languages as the Spirit gave them the ability to speak. There were Jews living in Jerusalem, devout men from every nation under the heaven. When this sound occurred, a crowd came together and was confused because each one heard them speaking in his own language. And they were astounded and amazed, saying, "Look, aren't all these who are speaking Galileans? How is it that each of us can hear them in our own native language?" Since it was the Lord that confused languages in the first place, according to Genesis 11:9, it would not seem illogical for him to restore an understandable language in either the mouth of the speaker of the gospel truths or in the ears of the willing listener. This is glossolalia, and neither was it an experience unique to Pentecost. Acts 10:44 through 47 reads, "While Peter was still speaking these words of the Holy Spirit came down on all of those who heard the message. The circumcised believers, the Jews, who had come with Peter were astounded because the gift of the Holy Spirit had been poured out on the Gentiles also. For they heard them speaking in other languages and declaring the greatness of God. Then Peter responded, 'Can anyone withhold water and prevent these people from being baptized who have received the Holy Spirit just as we have?'" Since language or tongues is the Greek word glossa, and while the word speaking is the word apothegomai, which means to declare and enunciate plainly, is the gift in the mind of the speaker or the ears of the hearer? There is scientific evidence that will be presented in the next segment of this series on spiritual gifts, so stay tuned.